We have sort of trying to build Chiang Mai business community as a business network. Yeah, so we've been hustling away with that. Done about 40 different events now, of different sorts. We had a Christmas market not too long ago, and now take this opportunity to talk about this viral moment. That was that. Today I have a few people with me that I found very competent, especially in this area, business and technology. First we have Lone, which is sort of a fintech, business advisor, investor, consultant, in advising and consulting for corporations, governments all around the world. And then we have Jimmy Costro, American entrepreneur within the logistics and food delivery space. And then we have Lily Wang here, entrepreneur from Silicon Valley, founder of Alignment Labs, very passionate about technology and consciousness. And she thinks that we will one day be married to AI. So, we will have more about them in a minute. I just also want to introduce shortly Jerry Ambrose here. He's the video recording guy. And you should check out his podcast, YouTube channel, Slacker Vortex, right? So very appreciative of him being able to record this. And then we have Julian. Julian is the owner of this place here, Weave Artisan Cafe. Julian, you want to come up and say a few words? Just talk briefly about the place and what you want to do with this place.
Hello everyone, Julian here. I see a lot of familiar faces, so again, it's amazing to see all of you again. It's always so nice to have such amazing support from this community. And when Lone and Rasmus approached us to be the host for this event, we were like, yeah, let's do it, even though I have no idea what it is. So I'm really looking forward to find out more about what is this application, because I'm probably, I would say, the least tech literate person here. I'm much more of a physical guy, as you can probably tell. I'm sure most of you probably been here once or twice. Is with Artisan Society. We are kind of this like interesting, strange place that trying to offer a platform for local creatives to to share ideas, share information, to meet up, to have a coffee, have a beer, amongst other things that I would like you to discover maybe after this. So any of you in the future would like to host events, do something, have a workshop, have an exhibition, welcome to talk to myself or my team. Yeah, we talk later, I guess. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to talk to you more after the event. Pass back to Rasmus.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you. All right. So, just want to do a quick sort of check. By raise of hand, is there anyone in here that have not tried ChatGPT manually on their own? Anyone that have not? Raise their hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's enough. All right, cool. 5, 6, yeah, it's a few. Awesome. So we're going to do a short demo, live demo, and we're just going to try to show you guys what it's all about, and then we're going to have a discussion about it after. Okay? So just going to put up a screen, so everyone have to turn around. We're going to have the thing on the wall there in a minute. So my moment when I realized that this is a kind of crazy tool is, so I'm a sort of a trail runner. I run around in the mountains here, and I'm building a trail running course that I'm going to try to sell to people online. And so I was thinking, could ChatGPT write me a curriculum for an 8-week trail running course? That's something that Google cannot do, right? At the current state, at least. So I asked ChatGPT that, and I'm going to do the same now and see what it comes up with. Okay. And from someone that have done this sport for a few years, I can verify that this is quite accurate information. And for me to do this on like be this detailed, it wouldn't take me many hours to focus this much and really break down the 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So you see the one user case here, and you get the point. So we're going to try another scenario, and now I'm going to try to use one of you that have not used this tool yet. Someone that have not used this tool, can you please sort of shout out a thing you want solved or a question you have? Shout ChatGPT. Anyone?
How will we solve poverty in the world?
Cool, good question. So the question is, how will we solve poverty in the world? All right, let's ask ChatGPT if you can get us an answer. So, of course, as we will get into in a minute, and explain the technology a little bit deeper behind this, but it is not searching the whole web. This is a sort of research project, and it has a limited amount of data that it draws from. So, and also rules in the code that will decipher what data to pull out. But you can see a quite good case for it, at least. All right, so that's a demo. Maybe some of you are impressed, some of you have already seen this, but that's what the tool is right now. Okay, so let's get into the panel. As I mentioned, technology. Loan. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is ChatGPT, what is generative AI, and a language model? What is this whole thing?
So, a generative AI is a system that will provide new stuff for you. So, yeah, what about up here? And it doesn't give an echo? Okay, so a generative AI is a set of algorithms within a product that will provide you with new data based upon your question. So, for example, if you ask it to produce an image of Santa Claus in a blue suit, right? This doesn't normally exist, so it will find a Santa Claus, a representative image of Santa Claus, and then it will change the image into one with a blue suit. This could be a rabbit that smokes. It could be anything, right? So it's taking something that exists, and then it is opening your request to make something different out of it. So that means that it is generating something new. ChatGPT is just one project that's been doing this, and they've been working on it for 5-6 years, even more, teaching the system self-generating algorithms so that it can develop new stuff. It can become, to a certain extent, cognitive. Language model is where you have taught the system everything you know, or it could be a medical one, right? A chat GPT for medical students to teach them about how to spot, I don't know, tropical diseases. And the language model is filled with the content of all of the learned knowledge that we have in the world, in people's heads, on the internet, in instruction books, in databases from hospitals and so on. And it's all put into one, and then algorithms are set over it, and it uses that language model to answer your questions. And so you ask it, where in the world will I be confronted with dengue fever? And it'll tell you Phuket as one of them. And then you can ask it, how do I avoid it? And it'll give you what you need to do, how to avoid it. You can ask what's the treatment for it and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure many people here will have seen the medical TV series House, where he is diagnosing things from all over the world, things that people never see. And all that knowledge and what he and his team were doing, if that sits within a language tool like ChatGPT, much easier to diagnose patients. So that language model provides you with that.
Fantastic. Lily, you are an educated computer scientist. Anything you want to add to that?
What's special about ChatGPT in particular, besides the technology itself, is that it actually has all of the information that's stored in it. It's actually been available as an AI for a long time. What's really interesting about ChatGPT right now is that it's added this user interaction layer that actually helps the user train, like kind of help reinforcement train the AI that's already existed for several years now through natural language. So it can remember what you just said. It can remember what you said for the past like 30 minutes. So you can really have a human interaction with the AI, which was not possible before. So that's the primary new piece of the technology that makes it, that made it so viral.
Fantastic, thank you. All right. So that's technical enough. If you want to dig deeper, you have to go to another conference. All right. So ChatGPT released, I think, in November. Jimmy, what is the hype about? What's so special? Why is everyone paying attention?
Well, I think the hype's mostly about that we could all use it without having to sign on through the Play Store or through the App Store. It's just an open source website that's not, there's no friction or barrier to entry. I think that's one part of it. And I think in November we saw from the Lensa app, when we all saw profile pictures get amplified like astronauts or funny things, I think that was a big awakening that you could upload your photo and see that it could transform into 100 different things quickly. So that was attractive first, but I think the main hype about it is that it's kind of the first frictionless opportunity to have a Google search type feel, but an comprehensive aggregate of all that information colliding and just giving you the information that you need without having to go through a series of websites and decide which source is best for you. So I think that just was a natural feeling of, wow, this is a virality moment for that service.
All right. So the organization behind ChatGPT is called OpenAI. And OpenAI, it kind of refers to, and please correct me here if I'm wrong, I'm not a data scientist, but what open refers to is the accessibility to for every person or engineer to access the software and the code and go in and build stuff, do their own thing with the existing language model, existing code. So OpenAI started with the philosophy that this should be open for everyone to use, but Have Sense closed it. So now it's a for-profit organization, and Microsoft just invested in them, and they don't. They think that this is too dangerous for the public to just do whatever they want with. Lone, what do you think? Open or closed? What is the different implications of open, and why should it be open if you think that, and why should it be closed if you think that?
So I think from a commercial perspective, right, as a company, you'd want to get some form of funding. And yes, you can get lots of funding if you start advertising, you turn into Facebook and so on. However, if we're talking about the data already exists. What ChatGPT has done, it has handed the keys to the kingdom to anybody who's on it, opened it up for people who are not in the industry to use it and to get information out. I don't think that's a bad thing at all, but I do think that some information in unknowing hands can be dangerous. But on the other hand, the people who really want to misuse it can do so, whatever they do, right? I mean, AI has been around for a long time. The first self-generating algorithm was developed in 1958. 10 years ago, AI, machine learning and deep learning, became a standard in all major fintech companies. It's just not been available to the public. So, it's all about us as people. It's not about it's dangerous. It's what we as people do with it, and do we use it right? Maybe not, but shouldn't everybody be allowed to do so? Now, whether you should pay for it or not is a different story. Personally, I think we should pay for it, right? There's huge amounts of investment that's been going into it. You're getting a service. If I had a restaurant, I wouldn't be offering my food for free. And if I have a fintech company and I have developed software, I'd like to see some return on it.
Thank you. Jimmy, what are you thinking on that topic? Open, closed, what's the dangers, what's the profits?
So open's decentralized, and I believe that's the best approach forward. Closed is centralized. It's kind of like the way we see the media now, and they're in control of how they can manipulate the content. If it's open, there's some attack vectors. However, if you have like a proposal by the architects or the engineers that are behind it that has like an 80% consensus, I believe this is the best way forward. An open protocol that has an 80% consensus by everybody that believes this should be the way forward. Closed just seems too dangerous, and we see it unfolding in all these countries, the way that information's being manipulated now.
Lily? Take the...
So I think that it has to be, well, the reason that they closed it, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, at least in the short term, for it to be closed source, because I don't know if you remember using it in November. It was actually very open. Mm-hmm. It was like the structure, you could literally ask it anything and it would give you a response. Since that time, it's been trained and kind of like they've done like a massive like public safety social experiment, and we the public have failed, basically. Like there were people asking to make bombs. There were people basically asking to create, asking the AI to give them access to things that would create outcomes that were like not easily reversible. Like if a whole bunch of people get access to, just get like a bunch of like 15-year-olds just get easy access to, I don't know, like bomb making materials or something. There's there's an irreversible result that can happen that I guess the OpenAI safety team decided that they don't want to be like singly responsible for, like right now, for like creating an irreversible effect in humanity. I think over time, for sure, an open source alternative will inevitably evolve. And like humanity already showed that they're not ready for that. Like just 2 months ago, basically, that's like what the systems are kind of too fragile to do that right now. And it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say that it's dangerous to go closed source because, like permanently actually for AI, because life wouldn't actually be much worse than it already is. It would just be that like the hierarchies and the information asymmetries that have always existed because of the natural balance of power would just continue. And the natural balance of power and the hierarchies of like information that already exist stay that way because, you know, we haven't talked about UBI yet, but like if the public, like if there's like an uprising from the public to get, you know, open access to AI, then that will happen if there's enough uprising. But it doesn't seem like, I don't see where there would be a balance point where closed source would make enough people upset that they would upset the balance. So I think basic capitalism is just going to win out, and it probably will be. I mean, most people honestly won't even notice the difference between like a closed source AI and a completely open AI. Just like most people don't notice the difference between like the real news or whatever that means and all the news. So yeah, I think it'll be closed source and everyone's going to be okay.
So short term it's going to be closed, long term open. All right, cool. I think I agree with that. And we're going to get back to the more sort of philosophical stuff, but I also want to give a little bit more tangible value, real life examples and stuff that you can sort of take with you from today and really implement in your business and create stuff from. Before AI takes totally over, you can create a business. So, in your industries, in your different industries where you have your expertise, where do you think this will have the most impact in the next sort of 6 to 24 months? Yeah, Jimmy.
I'm happy to answer all this. So, from my experience, like I wrote down a number of examples for our foundation. We have a nonprofit foundation. We work with a lot of villages here in Chiang Mai. We had to figure out how to introduce the internet to a village that's never had exposure to the internet. And I just asked ChatGPT, and I had all the answers right away. Like it was, I felt like a bionic person. Like we had to modify. We had helped purchase a mountain for some of these hill tribes, and I had to figure out how to modify a mountain. Like I don't even have a tool set in my house. Like I don't know what I'm doing, but with ChatGPT, I'm ready to modify a mountain. And like building an entire grid off, like an entire power grid off-site. Like I always saw that like on TV or like on YouTube. Like I always wanted to do that, but like I really didn't feel smart enough to know how to do that. Just last week, we installed a 6 kilowatt solar system on top of a mountain. Like I never would have believed that I did that. I had written proposals to different foundations all through northern Thailand in one day on a bus ride to Hua Hin. Like, and it came back like, wow, we're interested. Best methods to teach English using scientific research from Yale, Harvard, Cambridge, and Princeton. Give me the top 5 ways to do it. And in 3 seconds, it tells me how. I mean, so to how it's being used in my business in America now, I'm not really sure. I'm sure somehow it's implemented in optimized routing, but like how I communicate with the leaders, I don't really know where to put like a comma or what a pronoun means or like an adjective. I just drop a comma in when I think I'm talking too long. So like now, anything that I want to say, I just kind of type it up and then I say rewrite, and then it rewrites that, and then I copy that and I send that, and that's the new bionic me. And I've only been talking this way. Like I literally won't even talk the way I used to talk. And not to like go on a tangent here because I'll give it back over to you. But like I was like, people are like, oh, you should write a book about all these things you've done over all these different, series of times. And I'm like, wow, man, I don't got the vocabulary. I don't know the structure. When I found ChatGPT, a 10-chapter book about my relationship with Phi in 30 minutes. And it was awesome. So like, that's kind of my experience through it, and I'll give it back to you.
All right, Lone, what do you think? We talked briefly a few weeks ago about you were exploring how you could use this with your clients within fintech and stuff. What do you think in banks, and how will you use it?
Yeah, so essentially with ChatGPT and with all of the generative AI products that are out there, you're taking game technology and you're now putting it into every man's hand, right? If we're talking about big companies, you're now able to create a conversation chatbot with your customers based upon whatever it is that you're doing. If you manufacture something, if you deliver a service, for example, in loans, no? You're in the loan business, and somebody's trying to figure out, well, do I qualify for a loan? What's my credit rating like? With such a chatbot that you have trained with all of the information and data that you have in your business, a farmer in Wisconsin. Do they have farms in Wisconsin? I think they do, don't they? Okay, good. We think so. But anyway, so this farmer in Wisconsin can go online and with the chatbot and have an actual conversation, get the answers that he needs in order to prepare what he needs to do. How many of us have asked a chatbot or talked to somebody or God forbid, gone to a bank in Thailand and asked for something, and they say, oh, you need these papers, you need these papers. Then you go back and you have all of these papers. They say, oh, you don't need that, but you need this, right? So whenever you're talking to a human being, you're only talking to the knowledge that sits in their head. If they are a call center in Bangalore helping out a bank in the US, all they know is what they have on their screen and as knowledge. But if you're actually chatting with a ChatGPT program, it has all of it and can give you all of the knowledge immediately, which means that it'll shorten the lives of everybody, and it'll increase customer experience, which means that, number one, the customer will have all of the information, so he's going to ask, I want to apply for a loan in $50,000. What do I need? So it's going to give him a list of all of the things he needs. Then he can ask extra questions. Okay, so what documentation do I need to bring in? Give me a link to a document I need to fill out, prepare everything, and then take it into the bank, and everything is there. It's a one-time trip, right? As opposed to what we've all experienced here. You go to get your driver's license renewed, and you've not got the right form, or you wrote wrong on it, or you didn't sign the second page of it, and so on, right? So all of that can really shorten it, whether that is in banks, even in a hospital situation, because you're trying to get an appointment to go and see a doctor, right? You have an experience where you are answering questions, and they have access to your data because you've logged into their system, and it can then get you help much faster, and the right help.
Cool. Thank you for that. Lily, alignment labs, tech and consciousness. That sounds very almost contradictory. But I'm very curious. Tell me about what are you guys doing, and yeah, how do you say AI? How are you working with AI?
So we've been developing different kinds of innovation processes, mainly to work with startups, and also to develop and prototype like new ideas really fast. So we've been working on that and using different kinds of systemic methods to do that. And then when we started working with AI, actually we first started working with GPT-3, which is what underlies ChatGPT. So a lot earlier than November, we started working with the original AI. So like a year or two ago. Oh, your question, what was your question?
How will sort of ChatGPT and the current development impact your industry and what you're doing?
Yeah. So what I've seen for startup founders is that the especially programmers, especially like kind of technical program. So it used to be that like if you're just like a programmer at a job, you know, usually that's like very different. That's like a very different level of like programmer than someone who could be like the CTO or founder of a startup. It's starting to turn. So what ChatGPT does for programmers is like it turns them into like super programmers. So like programmers can now do the work of like 20 programmers, which means that they could run their own like kind of anyone who's like a programmer can basically like start their own startup like overnight if they have some kind of like if they use kind of like if they plug in the innovation processes, they can actually do it, create or they can create or modify kind of like any product idea like really fast. They can prototype really fast. So that's led to actually an interesting point. Like a lot of the programmers I've talked to are now in this like existential crisis of like, well, everything can get built. And if you build something, if you're a programmer and you build something, it can be instantly copied the second the idea leaves the room. So also
Speed of innovation is going to be.
And so like what is worth building is what a lot of these programmers, startup founders are sitting with. Honestly, even a lot of the AI startups, like they do super well for literally 1 month, and then a better competitor literally takes over the next month, and then they have to fire. I mean, I know one of the startups, like they have to fire like half of their staff. So that has never happened in this. It's never been at this speed. And so what I think is, I don't think people realize what they're, because they keep making the same mistake in this industry, but they keep trying to copy other people's ideas that they're not the most suited to copy. So like this trend of copying ideas, like race to the bottom kind of thinking, is playing out right now in the AI startup space actually, and people are going to get hurt by it, and then they're going to realize, I think, in like maybe like 2 years or something, they're going to realize that the only startups worth building are actually the ones that align with your consciousness. So because those are the ones that no one else would copy. Those are like the ideas that no one else would copy. So ironically, we didn't plan for this, but when ChatGPT hit, and then seeing what's happened to all of the startups in the last like 2 months, I really think that what's going to happen is that people are going to have to stop creating shitty startups that are just a copy of someone else's idea, and they're going to have to start like soul searching and like actually know what it is that they actually have to
That's
value.
very interesting. That's very, very interesting. Yeah, I have this idea that it's a little bit out there, but AI will be the thing that makes us all enlightened. A little bit extreme, but because I feel like there's so much of our identities that are tied up into our work and what we do and what we produce, but especially the knowledge workers will be very obsolete soon in a way. So, so you all have to sort of move away from identifying with our position, our knowledge, because our knowledge isn't worth anything, or won't be worth anything. The only thing that I see is our unique individual experience, like our present moment experience. That's the only thing that won't be able to be copied in the algorithm. That's my take on it. Perfect segue into where does this all lead? I would have given my sort of take on it. Jimmy, short term, medium, long, 2 years, 6 months, 2 years, 10 years?
All right. For the short term, like it's a super competitive advantage because there's so many people that are not here in this room that are not really fascinated by it or interested in it. So like you could create something very quickly. Like you really don't need much skill or ability other than to know the questions to ask. It comes down to like ask creative questions and then like just see what kind of results you get back. But if you want to start like a power washing company, You could ask what kind of tools to get. You could ask what kind of marketing you should do. Who's interested in it? You live in Bangkok, and what's that type of clientele? Like, you're getting an aggregate, aggregate. What's another word I got for it? A comprehensive collection of information just at your disposal. So in the short term, I think like if you want to create something, you could get ahead quickly because we're all going to be using this soon. Like we said, Bing, Google, Microsoft, they're all going towards this as fast as they can to get it right. And we're going to be using it side by side the same way we use Google or Yahoo. So I think right now the opportunity is to just learn it, get ahead of it, spend more time on it, see how it's useful in your life. This way you're not left behind. I think a big issue we're going to see is the people that were slow to adopt email or slow to adopt internet or slow to adopt the cell phone are the same folks that are going to get displaced the fastest. So like it's important that we don't ignore this because soon enough we're going to have a 12-year-old with a smartphone being able to replicate your business, like Lily said. Like it's just a matter of knowing what questions to ask. So it's really in the short. I like to look at the short term because right now I just know I don't know anything. Like the more that I get down this rabbit hole, I'm like blown away. So to look at 4 or 5 years or 10 years, I'm astounded just by what it is already. Like looking at how your questions were a week or two ago to how I feel today have changed. So you have to be adaptive, you have to be flexible, you have to be curious, because this is where it's going to help you be independent and have your individual soul searching, which is going to be valuable. Otherwise, we could just replicate and replace it. So there's challenges ahead, but there's opportunity right here. I had a conversation with Lone before this and said, so inherently, how do you feel? Do you feel that this is a danger, or do you feel this is like an optimistic, positive future for us? And without hesitation or doubt, she says, oh, the opportunity is just limitless. And with that, I'll hand it over to Lone.
Yes, it's true. I mean, the sky's the limit, right? It's all only limited by your own limitations of innovation and vision in terms of what you can do. So a couple of things to keep in mind. At the moment, ChatGPT is based upon a data set that they took in 2021. It has been enriched with all of the interactions that it had with its own teachers, who they had hired to do that. And then when they opened it up last year, all of the people who've been on it every day, every time I go on and I ask a question of it, it records what I say, and myself and many, many others will click a button saying, yes, good answer, not a good answer, and if it's not a good answer, we'll say why. And every day it learns more and more. When the data set is opened up to the totality of the internet, we're going to see an exponential growth in data and things that you can do with it. The actual program itself, one day you're going to be able to buy programs, or you can buy the usage of ChatGPT to apply to your own data set. So within the next 3 years, I think it's going to be encroached into every single type of business in this world, right? I cannot imagine that a school will not be teaching it, that the schools won't be using it to create curriculums and working with them. I think the critical point of all of this is that we need to apply critical thinking to the output, right? Because at the moment, 2021 plus what people have talked, it's garbage in and garbage out, right? But if it's good data that goes in and the question is one that can deliver an answer, then it's good and you should use it. But you should always look at the answers with critical thinking. You also need to remember that actually all of this information is available today. Right? You can go on Google, 90% of search in the world, 90% of PDFs for dissertations and information, all the news, all the scientific reviews, it's all available on the internet. And with Google, you can go and you can get this information. What gets Jimmy and me so excited about it is the fact that instead of spending 3 days researching molecular level changes, ChatGPT goes and has a look at what it has, and then it tells us in 3 seconds what we would normally take 3 to 10 days to find. Right? And it just means that my big worry is that people will not apply critical thinking to what they get.
Good point. Good point. Lily, you mentioned UBI. So UBI is Universal Basic Income, for those who haven't heard of that concept before, and it's sort of a concept that is invented by almost AI thinkers, I think, a few years ago. I was at 2016, Stockholm, Sweden. I was at an event held by or the Swedish CEO of Microsoft were speaking, and this was 2016. And already at that point, he said, "In the future, we're all just going to be philosophers because no one has anything to do." So, universal basic income is a concept conceptualized a lot by AI thinkers that we will all be sort of unemployed in the future. So, can you talk a little bit about that? UBI, is it real? Are we going to need it? What do you think?
I think that actually, I think that actually AI has ended up being like, instead of like a purely optimistic kind of addition to humanity, I think it's like a very big, it's like an exponential amplifier. So what I've noticed is that the same people that struggle with like making money, the same people that struggle with like getting a new job, the same people are literally, the AI does not help. The AI actually only serves to frustrate and amplify the inequities of, like, I would say mindset and knowledge and like intuition and self-trust, I would say. So it's like it exponentially helps the people that already kind of already have a good relationship to technology, and then it just kind of further like distances certain people, like another whole half of society, from wanting to be involved. A good example is to actually look at like Generation Alpha, which is like, if you don't know, I didn't know until I looked up like 2 weeks ago what this generation was called, but the 12-year-olds and under, they're called Generation Alpha. And you'll notice that if you talk to anyone under 12, they're like Neo from the Matrix, like with their smartphone. Like, really, I've watched these kids do things with the technology that is literally not possible unless they have a psychic connection to the phone. Like something, like if there's like a biofeedback training with the electronics or something. So it's really next level. I think in the short, honestly, I think the youngest Generation Alpha child is going to be of legal age to be hired by the workforce in like 3 years. At that time, every other generation is going to lose their jobs. I think it's like these like super tech psychic kids.
So do you think we will need a universal basic income?
I think we were on track to needing it anyway. Before AI, it's not the AI that's taking jobs.
Yeah.
It's literally this generation that's coming that literally is just fundamentally better at doing all of the work, because they're already so married to the technology that AI can help, but it's like the inequality was actually already there. It's baked in before AI. So I think we're going to need a universal basic income just to catch, like, I mean, even if it's like temporary for some people, to like give them a place to land while they're shopped, kind of I think a lot of people are going to get laid off because it's like a better business to just literally hire 18-year-olds in 3 years. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, cool. So we have about 10 minutes to go. 2 last questions, then we're gonna open up to some questions to the audience. Really quick from all of you. for the businesses here in Chiang Mai, 30 seconds, 1 minute, minute and a half if you really want to. But what should a Chiang Mai business person think about right now? Jimmy.
Okay. I'm trying to be very delicate here because my girlfriend's Thai. But the Thai culture does phone calls, lots and lots of phone calls. So that's extremely difficult to scale. So I think before we just dive right into the next technology, we have to look at some of the Western ways that have been effective and efficient, and maybe like look at how you could get away from the phone calls and maybe put that into a system that can be more reviewable of expectations, more black and white. So I think that is a limiting thing of how business is done, making so many phone calls. So just in my personal opinion, if we could look at some of the other countries that have done extremely well by getting away from phone calls, we'll get away from a lot of that gray area, a lot of that, oh, I thought you meant this, I thought he said this, he said, she said, when you could just have a reviewable system that the person could look at, or the partner could look at, or the colleague could look at, and in a more practical way. So that's just my, without going deep into AI, we got to start somewhere first, and then we could get to the next level.
All right. Lone, what are the opportunities for the Chiang Mai businesses?
Anyone who's in the service industry, anybody who has customers who need to contact and talk to them, needs to employ ChatGPT ASAP, right? If you, in order to create a conversation with your customers, if you are developing a business plan, use it. There are so many other companies out there that are offering AI-based services that you can use, and I think one of the big things is that they need to go and start using these, and whether they are in imaging or they are in creating narratives, or it's helping you get better SEO and all that kind of stuff. You need to employ it in order to get ahead.
For Chiang Mai Thai businesses, right? Okay, so I mean, really like having if I don't think most Chiang Mai Thai businesses have like an online presence, I think, at all, much less like an online presence that actually includes all of the relevant information that would actually market it to a Western audience. So I mean, like just the basics of like having everything that, like, just name any American cafe in San Francisco and just copy their website, but then fill in your information, like, and you know, like make like it, like you can legitimize kind of the like modernize everything to like 2021 basically. All of the marketing efforts that are like kind of all of the marketing strategies that are like typically like loyalty programs, whatever it is, like all of that could be modernized like so quickly. And the Thai businesses that look like they're they've been able to create like a simple Western front, you know, at least like web presence that people, especially like nomads traveling through Chiang Mai, are used to seeing in their hometowns, then like it can really become like an immediately like an international hub where all the businesses like kind of get the attention that they really deserve.
Fantastic. Thank you, thank you. Okay, last question, also short for everyone. We've been going one direction, AI is going to taking over the world, but we should always question our own thinking, right? So what is the curveball here? What is the thing that we don't see? Why is it not going to become like the way we've been talking? Why is it not going to be all-encompassing? What are we not seeing? Jimmy?
I just think unable to understand emotion, the cultural differences, and the ethical considerations. It's just not. It's going to be hard to understand how we think, and we're emotional creatures, and this is not an emotional creature.
All right, Lone, same. Why are we? What are we missing? Like, is there any possibility that it won't take over the world and we'll go back to nothingness?
There's no going back.
No going back.
No, there is no going back. It's here. It's going to stay. The big companies have invested in it, so there is no going back. I would disagree a little bit with Jimmy on the emotional, cognitive sense of it, right? Because I do think that's going to come. Now, this is not Commander Data, who has no emotions but is completely cognitive. I do think that we will get there. And you hear reports from people who've been working in machine learning, deep learning, with AI programs, and are saying, well, we're getting sort of the sense of a bit of sentience, right? The difference between AI and us is that we have we do have emotions, right? But I don't think that's the only thing that drives us, right? So I think that from a pure sense, an AI intelligence is superior to ours, but it's our world, right? So we need to make sure that we stay with it. I think the danger actually lies with people and what they do with it.
Lily?
Yeah, I agree that I don't think I actually said that AI was going to take over the world. So I don't agree with that anyway. But what I think is for sure, people will be taking over the world. And also, if there were a curveball, I don't think it's a curveball, because I think it's very clear that humans don't trust AI. Like, humans will never trust AI more than a human that they trust. You know, humans actually, and like this is the key that is like prevents robots from taking over the world, because humans have natural human power systems and hierarchy, and you will always trust a human with like 30 years of, human experience of watching systems and trends like rise and fall, and like technologies rise and fall, and still, survived based on like instincts. You will trust that human to like give you the stories of what worked, what didn't work, and to, in a machine, it's almost certain it's never going to evolve. In fact, the smarter it gets, the less trustworthy it will be for humans. So there will, I'm not saying that like we won't have like a conscious AI that might that's still a small chance that probably will happen, like a 15% chance it's gonna happen, I think. But it's more about like if the humans and the power structures kind of like grow the way that they typically grow, the humans in power will want to keep their power. And if they want to keep their power, they will keep their power. And they're not going to give it away to an AI. So, AIs will not be running the world. It's like still the people who are running the world now will be running it. And AIs will be like second in command, for sure.
Good answer. One thought that I've had is, so with all these sort of texts and you've seen the pictures, and it will become video and voice and everything. Anyone can produce anything. Like we can produce Obama doing saying different stuff, right? Like, and we won't be able to differentiate online what's real and what's not real, and that consequence might be so that we stop consuming online content, because we don't know, right? At least not trusting online content. That might be able to be solved by some tokenization. I don't know if that's fast enough to really identify what's real and what's not real or human produced. All right, enough with that. We're going to open up to 5, 10, 15, 2 hours of conversation with you guys. So Julian, could you help us with the microphone? Yeah, take loans there. So anyone with the, yeah, take the front there, yeah, thanks.
Hear me okay?
Yep.
My question is kind of related to what you just said.
Can you hold the mic a bit closer?
My question is related to what you just said. If GPT is trained on 2021 data today, which is human-generated data, but we're now 2 years out. All the content marketers have gotten involved. They've produced 10 times more information on the internet than we currently have, but it's all AI generated. And we already know from GPT that a lot of the data that it produces is factually wrong, but we don't check it. We don't fact check that data. So 2 years from now, GPT-4 or whatever is now trained on 10 times more data. A lot of it is shit. What does that mean moving forward? Does the quality of the data, kind of like you just said, become less and less useful?
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I see it can go that way, but I'm not sure.
Real quick, just I think my conversation before earlier with Lone was that it won't go to shit. Like there's too much information that's funneling it to not just go to shit, and that's why it's so quickly being adopted. So I just from that part of your question, I think it's just going to keep refining and refining and refining to be more accurate. I mean, I'm sure they could maybe disagree or not, but what would you say on that, Lone?
So the AI systems are actually today already able to put in critical thinking itself and learn. So, for example, if you taught it how to play Go, it learns how to play Go, and then it starts playing against other people, and then it learns from that. So it's self-learning. Now, as I did say earlier on, garbage in, garbage out. However, that there's a huge movement within Google, Microsoft, and other companies to ensure that the data that these systems are being fed with is good data. Because, frankly, what's available on the internet already, the majority of it is absolute rubbish, right? So these programs are being taught critical thinking themselves, that they can look in and simply say, well, this doesn't make any sense, and this doesn't make any sense. I also think that there will be legislation coming and coming faster than we might want. The EU has a very formidable lady who is in charge of our competition and stuff like that. Her name is Margrethe Vestager. She is well known to the big companies and what they do in terms of keeping them on the straight and narrow. So there's going to be a huge piece of work to do that. And I think also if we look at the statements that are coming out from Google, they didn't want to release it too early because they're trying to make sure that the data they have is good data. But I think that horse has bolted now, right? It's out there. They're going to have to go out, and a lot of people are going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that people understand the critical thinking that's required to look at the data. But you're absolutely right. It's going to exponentially be bad whilst the programs are learning to discern between fake news and real news.
Yeah, so they're already, I think the AI researchers have already looked into kind of what will happen if all of the internet is basically just training itself on more bad AI generated internet data. And one way that they could handle it is by including watermarks on all AI generated content, so that you're simply not allowed to train an AI on AI generated content. That's one easy way that they could just legislate that's how AI generators need to work. That's one easy way to kind of start to take care of it. Also, you can the reason why this is probably not going to happen, it's not going to be a problem in a few years. It would be if the AI companies literally just stopped working now, they stopped thinking, then bad things could happen. But what they're actually doing, it's not that hard to create an AI that does fact checking, that fact checks other AIs. And as long as you have like two AIs going against each other, then you can create like a system that is self-sustaining, self-checking. So yeah, they're definitely aware of that, and they're working on it. And the thing is, they can develop a solution so fast to take care of that issue that when it arises, they can just make an AI that does the opposite.
Thank you. Next question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the panel. I have two questions. The first is a practical question. So your output is only as good as the input. So what constitutes as a good question for OpenAI? And then my second question is more of a philosophical question. So you were talking about Generation Alpha and how, given their relationship with technology and smartphones, that we may reach a point where they can potentially take over all jobs, right? And so what are the social ramifications of reaching such a point? I don't know if we'll reach that point, but what are the social ramifications of reaching that point? Or the fact that this tool exists and a college student can just say, type their essay prompt into the chat, and then they have an essay generated. So now you have people who can't think critically because you just have this generator. So do you guys think about like the negative ramifications of having a tool like this, or the fact that there can be a slippery slope to having a tool like this? So practical question and a philosophical question. Thank you.
So I can just briefly touch on the first question. There is a new sort of title called prompt engineering. So prompt is the sentence that you put into the AI system, right? So there's well-paid consultants that understand the AI and how to ask the question the right way to get the best answer. So that's an up-and-coming position. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Lily?
Yeah, so the way I talk to the AI, I've been outsourcing project managing for a long time, and I find it very easy to get what I want from the AI because I'm very demanding. And I think a great question, a great way to approach the AI is just to be as exactly as demanding as you want and see what it gives you, and then that's it. Like, it's not hard to just, I think the only issue is like certain people are too polite. So people who are not too polite, just be less polite, and then and just ask for what you really want from the AI, and then you see what it's just a trial and error. So everyone has their own way of asking. I think the more demanding, the better. The second question about the I think that honestly the generation that's going to be most empowered by this technology, and the only real social shift that is going to happen the fastest is that these kids, like I talked to a 6-year-old and I was like, oh my God, I wish I could legally hire this 6-year-old, teach him how to code, and then just like set him free, you know, like just set him free on all the problems in the company, you know, like, it's just not legal to hire a 6-year-old right now. Like, but literally this 6-year-old had this like open mind that was able, like without any limitations about technology. And that was like I would say like that's like ideal employee for like 2028 or something like level. So I think that honestly there's going to be a lot of services and, you know, like career services and like kind of incubations. I mean, I think it won't matter by that time. Everyone who's like Generation Z or Generation Y or older is going to basically be faced with like having to start their own business. Like they're just going to have to do it because they're not going to want to be competing for like jobs. I don't even know if Generation Alpha wants jobs. They probably don't even want jobs. It's just going to make them really hard to hire. So the social ramification, I think, will naturally, I don't think there's anything to worry about, really. I think it's like everyone's going to become faced with the fact that if they didn't like their job, they're probably going to get fired, replaced by someone younger, and they're going to face that moment that every entrepreneur faces where they decide to like just do their own thing. So I think almost like everyone is going to be doing their own thing. when that shift starts occurring. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think people would make a lot more money most people would make a lot more money doing their own thing. So I don't think that young techno children taking a bunch of jobs is actually a bad thing at all. And then ChatGPT and versions of different AI tools will be there in 3 years for everyone to start their own businesses when or if they quit their job or get fired anyway. So it's kind of its own universal basic income, I think, on its own level. Everyone can just have their own business. It's fine.
Lone, yeah?
Yeah, I have a comment to that. I absolutely agree. But actually what I think is also going to happen is that the over 40s are going to have a leveler in the fact that now they can also code without understanding how to code, right? So the last times we had changes, it meant that the older generations were just left out in the cold. People didn't know how to use smartphones, and you can't write macros in Excel and analyze data, but ChatGPT actually can help them do that now, right? And it levels them in terms of skills with the younger people coming up and knowing more. I think in terms of the questions, you ask your question on whatever it is of it, and then you should ask follow-up questions, saying, okay, so now you've given me this list of things to do. Can you expand on number 2 and tell me what do I need in order to do that? You continue and continue until you have what you get. And you'll be teaching yourself as well how better to phrase the questions that are there. Just continue until you get what you need. And if you're not getting what you need, then ask it a completely different question from a different angle. Don't be shy, right? I mean, it's a machine. It's not going to get hurt, at least not yet. Can I just have one last comment, and that is when you were talking about people using it to write dissertations and things like that. I think our education system is archaic. It's been there since the early 1800s. It's time something completely changed, and I think GPT is going to be one of the things that's actually going to force a change, because the way we educate people is not congruent with the modern world.
So is there any point to get the normal education today? Jimmy?
Yes. You need the fundamentals of education in the early stage. Maybe like a degree. You could ask a summer, like I was just wanting to reread this 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I wasn't having a good time getting through it. So I was like, fuck. And then I was like, oh shit, ChatGPT. Summarize this book for me in, less than 2,000 characters. And I got that, and I wanted to like zero in and ask a little, dial into another part of it, and got further down the rabbit hole. So to answer your question, yeah, I'm in the education field. Like we definitely need to educate from the bottom up, critical thinking. But to parlay or segue into your question, like go crazy. Like ask questions you wouldn't think. Like this could be your therapist. This could be your study buddy. Like I would say we would write like very professional documents. Translate this into Thai. It says, sorry, I'm a language model and I can't do that. I'm like, please translate the content into Thai. 3, 2, 1. So just, you be aggressive. You're going to first feel like, man, that's not good mannerisms. That's not polite. Like we can't be saying, F you, do this. Like maybe that's not good behavior to practice. That might carry on outside of your relationship with this new system. But go crazy. I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything that Lily said and everything that Lone said about that.
Cool. Thank you. Any more questions? Got one over here.
Hello there, is this working? Apparently it is, yes. I'd just like to point out first off that if there is a 15% chance of AI taking over, then it might be prudent to be polite towards it. But what I want to ask, sadly I have quite a depressing question. Is this not working very well? Hold it closer.
Yes, please.
Hold it much closer. There we go. So with the advent of the recent pandemic, sadly, a lot of people killed themselves. A lot of the people who we work with in Bangladesh, their kids ended up going back home and not attending school because they needed to be in the fields and such. And there wasn't a tremendous amount of support available for people who were affected by the pandemic. Now, looking at AI and a number of people who are likely to lose their jobs again, I'm hoping I don't lose another job, but I perceive an issue here, because then if you're looking at, say, India, for example, customer service is a very, very large part of India's actual economy. And what we're looking at here is a tool which might well be able to automate, well, India. And that's a huge economy. And of course, it's sort of weirdly amusing on the one hand, but also the impacts are very, very real. What support is there being planned for, people who are negatively affected by artificial intelligence?
Real quick, if I could take this. So we had a similar conversation, but it wasn't so technical when the car came out in the early 1900s about the horse. And we were afraid that this wouldn't make any sense and this would take away all of those jobs. And the same thing happened when computing came out. We thought that all the accountants would go away, but now we've opened up hundreds, thousands of more jobs along that line. And same with we saw the cellular phone come along, and we're like, that's not going to work. That's going to take away the landline and all these people that work for AT&T and Bell. And now we have hundreds of thousands of people working for Bell. And then the same thing happened when we got the internet. So I personally believe, this is a really valid question, and I'd love to spend more time on it with you outside of this, because I see your side of it as well, because the times are different. But I also believe that humans are innately good, and that this technology won't debilitate you. Yes, it will displace many, but it will also create so much more opportunity. We're just still here on Earth. Like we're going to find, it's going to gravitate us towards what we're strong at, what we believe in, what we're good at, what we're passionate about, and then we'll connect with that. It's not going to just stop us in our tracks. So I look at India and I look at this, what you're saying, but we're humans, we're resourceful, we're powerful, we're connected. I don't believe we're going to allow this technology to take us into that doom and gloom space. Lily, could you help me?
So yeah, the idea that actually all of the outsourcing that goes to India could literally be replaced, like you could replace 20 employees, 20 freelancers with one, or with just an AI. And it's also true that possibly, I'm not sure about the education systems there, but it's possible that because they're trained to be so technical, they may not have been trained in the basic kind of entrepreneurial skills that ChatGPT really benefits. Like it benefits the people who already have an open mind to create a business with it. So it may be that the future looks like, India gets automated away. Every country that's like India gets automated away. There's massive, if that happens, then there would be a massive public problem. If there's a massive public problem, like a revolution or something like that, like there's massive poverty, then there will be a counter reaction. And there's going to be so much wealth being created in the countries where, the culture naturally benefit. Like there's going to be so many millionaires, billionaires created by this, that there's going to be basically pressure put on the on the governments of the developing countries, and then if to institute probably like a basic income, a universal basic income for these people. But it would take probably a revolution, or probably a period of like some panic, a period where those employment numbers actually go down. So there might be some short-term like kind of panic and pain, and then like certain countries will likely be pressured just because you literally can't have a country where 90% of the people suddenly go unemployed. And I think that's very likely to happen in some of these countries that have survived. I think it's totally likely. And yet, the natural kind of like, and it might not even be like the country of India's government that is pressured to like come up with a universal basic income. It might be, you know, the first world countries that are suddenly making so much money, or, you know, these like more global organizations that are just like, listen, we're just going to give India enough money to feed, you know, to give a basic universal living. You know, it wouldn't be that much. I mean, I don't know, I haven't calculated, but it's like, it wouldn't be that much given the wealth that's going to be created for the top kind of powers that have like kind of made a lot of money, will make a lot of money off AI. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure. I think that they're going to be looking to people like Bill and Melinda Gates, like they're going to be looking to like OpenAI. They're going to be, but if there is some pain first, like the employment numbers first go down, that there might be people who kill themselves. It might be like another tragic thing that makes the news like that, that then brings this new kind of reality into place, like this new universal, like humans being taken care of by default kind of reality. Yeah.
Yeah, for my take on that, I have a few different ideas. So there's another company called Stable Diffusion, which is actually an open source. So OpenAI was originally open source, didn't stay open, but Stable Diffusion is open, and I think they have like a community with like 100,000 developers on some Slack channel or Discord, I don't know, but like it's a big community of developers that everyone sort of pitch in, and they have a bunch of different projects. And the CEO there, so they have just over 100 employees, but they're for profit, but still open. I don't know exactly, but they have been in conversation with Indian government, for example, and give them this open source tool, right, to do whatever they want with, I guess, but to help sort of catch up and not be left behind. They're talking to countries in Africa and stuff. And I also do think that we have these sort of coins and tokens, and we talk about the digital currencies from different countries, right? So I think that there's a discussion going on. I haven't heard of any sort of solid solution, but programmable money is a thing that people are talking about. So that might be a solution, and that's a part of the UBI, right? So where everyone gets some sort of small amount handed down from a government or all governments or maybe a global government. We'll see, but that might be a solution. All right, any more questions? Yeah, the man in the white shirt there.
Yes, I have a question about language. You know, right now we're speaking English, all of us here.
Can
right?
you hold a little bit closer?
Yes, I have a question about language. So you're mentioning that we're always doing this in English. So what happens then? Is AI going to be English focused? Everyone's, you know, the AI will be trained on English alone. Right now, I was mentioning that I think, you know, when we do Google Translate, I think it's a very flawed thing when it comes out in Thai or vice versa. And I'm a little surprised at how slowly that has gone. And I'm wondering about what will that mean for AI? Is it just going to be English only?
So right now, I think OpenAI, ChatGPT have 100 languages that they manage. You can translate what I just did. You can translate into 100 languages. The main language is English, as far as I know. So yeah, I think just going to develop, and all the languages are going to be covered at some point.
Can I ask if anyone here has done it in Thai, and asked the questions in Thai and how the results of that have been?
I did a bit in Thai. Anyone did anything deep?
Okay, I have done in Thai before, but it's not perfect, but understanding. Yeah, I can understand everything about, when the ChatGPT translate from English to Thai. And I asked ChatGPT in Thai in some question. Seems like ChatGPT can answer very well too.
So can you ask questions in Thai and get Thai responses?
Yes.
Okay. Now I can learn Thai again.
The sky is the limit. Not even the sky. The sky is not the limit. Any more question? Lady in front here. Yeah.
I'd just like to build up on what was said about the languages. Can you all hear me? Yeah. It's basically AI is basic. I mean, like ChatGPT is trained on English sources, right? So what about in other languages? Because translation is just one thing. Yeah. What about ChatGPT being trained on, I don't know, Italian language, like Italian sources of data? Is this being done? Because then if it's not being done yet, that means that the answers to whatever questions we ask will have this bias from the Anglo-Saxon side. So what about...
We got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. So
Most countries, 60 countries speak English. This is important. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but you're right. We got to start somewhere, and then it'll lead down that path. You could carry on.
Yeah, so the ChatGPT OpenAI is 3.5. It's the third and a half version of this, so, right? It's a research project originally. It's a limited amount of parameters of data that is trained on, right? It's not on the whole internet, not the whole web. So, and it's just a fraction. So, yeah, it's gonna come in a minute. Lily?
Sorry, just because I read recently, a few days ago, I read an article. I don't remember the exact things, yeah, but that was in France, I think. Someone asked a question like to get, I don't know, I'm just saying anything, but something like the recipe to make a bomb, for example, yeah, and the AI replied and gave these answers, whereas in English, for example, there would be some restrictions on this, but this has not been done yet in other linguistic platforms.
Yeah, I haven't done anything else than in English, so I haven't checked, even though I'm Swedish, but I haven't done it in Swedish yet, but just a matter of time. Lily?
Yeah, they're actually creating a much bigger version of ChatGPT in China. And you can imagine the amount of there's so many more Chinese people. There's so much more Chinese content. The Chinese people are way more all about posting everything online. So that is going to be a massive amount of information that's going to be, actually it's going to be probably stuff that the Western world doesn't even know about, culturally, because it's all going to be from the bias and perspectives of Chinese people who can't, mostly don't know English, actually. Yeah, so it's going to be, so that, but the thing is, if they create that, because the Chinese, generally, when they copycat something that the US has done, they generally do it better and 20 times faster, stronger, all of that. So they're probably going to make a universal translating thing that makes it just almost irrelevant that, it's in these different languages. To switch between languages will be irrelevant really soon. But the fact that it's not trained on, I would say, any culture that feels like their information is not covered, every country that feels like their thing is not covered, their country is not covered. I'm sure in Italy, if they really feel strongly about it, they can just fine tune their own, version to train the existing AI, the Chinese AI or the English AI, to just add in all of that extra to it's called fine tuning. You just add in all of the data that you think is missing, maybe about, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something particular to Italy, all of the history of the Italian towns or something. So really any information that you would want to get culturally, it would be based on if someone really wanted to create it, if they cared to create it, they can just build it on top of the existing English AI. And yes, there's absolutely bias. It's a very I would say that the bias of ChatGPT sounds exactly like a 40-year-old middle manager at Google, with the opinions, trying to sound cool. I tried to tell it to sound like a cool Generation Z person, talking on Twitter, and the response it gave was exactly a very clean, literally a 40-year-old who's working at Google and doesn't want to get in trouble and is a middle manager. That's the kind of that doesn't want to insult anyone. So that's definitely the bias. Yeah.
Yeah, when I started to dive deeper into this, so Stable Diffusion, and the owner, I think he's called Emad Mustak, something like that. He has a few YouTube podcast clips where he's getting interviewed, and he talks about the AI, because it's open and it's people from all around the world putting in their own biases. It will soon be able to sense the most minute cultural aspect of any local community, because it's just so many developers involved, right? Yeah, so that's that.
One quick thing on this. There should become filters. Nations should have filters, like at some point, for like, let's say things we all agree on, like child pornography, or a very religious country like Israel or or Pakistan. They're going to say, no, I don't want people to see that information. So I believe there will be a lot of battles on tech on just filters. Like in China, they don't have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They have their own version. So, like Lily said, like that's going to be, they're going to have their own data sets, their own AI, and that's going to be written law for them. So there's going to, the bridges will be different, but I think there's going to be cultural filters at some point.
All right. Is there any more question? Julian have a question.
Okay, if I might, I slip in a question. So how I see it, right, is it's a language model. Okay, so the output is knowledge. I wonder if you guys could share maybe some instant if the output could bypass humans. So for example, let's say, okay, something you just did earlier, Rasmus, all right? It still requires yourself to interpret that and then to apply that. So for example, someone mentioned medical, or myself as an architect. Let's say, could the output, are there instances or example already where the output have bypassed the human stage, where it's just fed straight into 3D printers? Let's say I have a client next week, family of 4, I would like a house. This is my site, So this program can actually not only give me the knowledge of how to design the house in this location because of Google Map, but also the data output can actually be sent to or fed into 3D printers that could print a house for me in the future, or in the context of a medical community, this robotic surgical instrument that could read the output and perform remote surgery. I don't know, I wonder if that can happen yet.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone watched Tuesday, Microsoft had a sort of a release event, closed, but then they released a video of it, and they showed the sort of commercial. So Microsoft invested $10 billion into OpenAI and have been working with OpenAI for many years now. So they released this commercial product on Tuesday, and did an event about it, and they showed how they look at the search. So they have a search engine, Bing. It's not Google. It's their own version, which haven't been very popular the last few years. But with this Chat GPT interface next to Bing search engine, you could. So they ask the question: can you find the couches in IKEA or something in this fashion? Can you find the couches in IKEA that can fit into my Honda, this model, right? So they knew the Honda size, knew the size of the couch, and could calculate that and sort of give an answer. And they were connected, so Bing is connected to the web, right? So they have now, there's a limited version now, but they are now connected to the web. And this is version 4, I think, right? ChatGPT 4, I think so. Anyway, yeah, so your scenario, from my understanding, it's just a matter of time.
So the programs to do that exist already. They're not available to the general public, right? So all of that and all of the tools that you need to do that exist. You just have to put them together and create the programs that do that. But as a layperson looking into ChatGPT, it can't do that for you. It can give you information, it can give you calculations, it can give you elevations and all the kind of information that you need. Then you have to put it all together yourself. But the technology exists to do what you're talking about.
All right, so we are 40 minutes past our time. One last question. Anyone? No more questions. Good. Not good, but we could have sit here for a long time, but people want to go. All right, let's do some networking, connect with each other, exchange details, take a beer, wine, drink, whatever. Enjoy. All right? Thank you, everyone.